And Elkanah, will give him credit. He did as good as a man can do. He tried. He loved Hanna, even though she had not given him children. He loved her. And he tried to make it up to her. He came to her and he said, he saw her in her misery and her sorrow, and he said to her, Hanna, aren't I better than if you had 10 sons? Isn't having me as your husband better than having 10 sons? And Hanna said, no. But Hanna, I love you. I love you so much. Isn't my love enough? No. Oh, Hanna, isn't being my wife enough? Hanna answered, I love you too, Elkanah, but it's just not enough. It's not enough for her fulfillment as a woman, her fulfillment as a human being. Hanna knew that she could not live her life through her husband. Hanna knew that her husband could not give her the fulfillment that she needed, wanted, and desired. Now, of course, in ancient Israel, and as we mentioned in too many places in this planet this day, avenues for women's fulfillment are extremely limited. We need look no further than Afghanistan and the Taliban to see how limited many women's lives are in this world. And so for Hanna, the only way of finding fulfillment in her time and place was to have a child. She needed a child. She needed to take control of her reproductive future. Now, the irony of this story is that Hanna would have to go and appeal to the very one said to have put her in this state, and that's God. It just breaks my heart, and how many lives has it pained to be told that God has determined your infertility. How many lives have been hurt for them to be told by others what God has determined for them. Did they talk to God? I don't think so. But yet our text and many like it are responsible for that attitude in our culture. As few people in our culture go to church, there's no escaping that we are a biblical culture, shaped and formed in many ways by this text, which is why I think it's worth studying and at least worth knowing and understanding the forces that are shaping our culture. And so she was told that God had closed her womb, and that was her fate. And there was nothing she could do about it because God had decided it. But yet somehow, this lowly woman, this woman of no acclaim, this woman of no power, was not deterred even by God's command. She, through the power of her faith, through her stubbornness, if you will, through her determination to take control of her life, to take control of her reproductive life, she prevailed upon God. You might even say she defied God and got what she wanted out of life. The struggle for reproductive choice, for reproductive freedom, is fundamentally a struggle about women's self-determination. Classically, women are told, God closed your womb. And when a woman is pregnant, they say, oh, well, God gave you a child. But that decision is never that simple. The struggle for reproductive choice and freedom is a struggle to ensure that we live in a world in which each woman shall have the power, and it's about power, to determine for herself whether, when, and how many children to have. Her self-determination to design her own fulfillment is a fundamental human right. For Hanna, the only avenue to fulfillment open to her was childbearing. But in our day and age, the avenues for women's fulfillment is unlimited. And so we ought to offer and to make a world in which women can determine for themselves what that fulfillment is. We need to build and design and to ensure a world in which a woman can say to her husband, if she has a husband, no, you're not enough. Your love is not enough. Your status is not enough. Your wealth is not enough. I am my own person. And to determine for herself how she will live and seek the fulfillment that she needs, wants, and desires. The groundbreaking book on this subject is that written by Beverly Harrison, Our Right to Choose. And I just want to share a short passage from her introduction. She writes this in 1983. In discussions of abortion, however, there is a noticeable absence of critical sense about whether existing formulations of the morality of abortion even pose the moral dilemma accurately. This weakness is rooted in insensitivity to women's lives. Abortion, more by accident than design, treat abortion as if it were an isolated act or deed, having no relation to the lived world other than its involvement with prospective birth. Few pause to notice that the question of whether to seek an abortion arises concretely within the life of a woman only under specific circumstances. Circumstances that are not externals to the consideration of abortion, but are integral to the full meaning of the dilemma. The abortion dilemma arises in nearly all cases because of unwanted pregnancy. From the standpoint of a woman's experience, a more basic and prior moral question operates. What am I to do about the procreative power that is mine by virtue of being born female? The question of abortion arises only in this wider human context. In one sense, abortion is a negative therapeutic or corrective act, not an act of positive moral agency at all. A woman's basic constructive line of moral action is responsible life planning in relation to her procreative power. Here's a critical sentence. The habit of discussing abortion as if it were a discrete deed is a way of formulating the abortion issue as a moral question abstracted out of and hence irrelevant to the way it arises in women's lives. It's 1983. The habit of discussing abortion as if it were a